Hi, this is Editing Me. Excuse just everything. It's raining here. I've pretty much just gotten in, but I do want to say a few things. First of all, I'm so sorry about how long it has taken for me to get this video out. A couple of reasons. One is obviously it's a virus, it's a moving target, and the news has changed. Also, as things have gone on with the virus, I find that what I wanted to focus on was less and less to do with where the virus potentially came from, and just give a bit more information about the virus, what it is, why it is so bad, and then try and focus a bit more about how bad things are now in China. Because even in the 48 hours since I thought, oh, I will make a video, things have gotten so much worse for the province of Wuhan. I also wanted to say this is the first time I have ever made a video with my phone. It's really only the fourth video I've ever made, so that's been a steep learning curve. Also, nearly all Chinese social media does have a vertical interface, so if that gets annoying for you, there's not much I can do. That's just, it's like Snapchat, that's just the way it works. I've tried to give as much credit as I can. If there's anybody that I've missed, please let me know. And that's pretty much it from Editing Me. I may pop up back again as I go through it. The main thing that I want to say is that initially there was a lot more focus on this potentially being a man-made virus, which I'll let you come to your conclusions. I invite conversation in the comments. But as things have progressed, as I say, I have, wanted to put the focus elsewhere. I don't know if you can hear that, but there is a thunderstorm coming in. So I'm just going to hopefully pop this at the beginning, have a look through, and then finally get this up. And thanks for your patience, and thanks for watching. And if you enjoy the video, please like. If you want to subscribe, that would be great. I'm going to try and keep up with the virus and other topics. So thanks very much, and on with the video. Bye. Hi, if you've been on the channel before, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Plutonia. You can call me Pluto. Really glad to have you here. And today I'm going to be talking about a few things, but most specifically the coronavirus. If you've come here because of a tweet, which I have to say, I will never again spend a night reading and then at 4 o'clock in the morning put out a tweet going, I make a video about this, because I woke up and thought, okay, I'm going to have to make a video about this. So I've spent the entire day reading, and I'm going to try and talk about this virus in a few very particular ways. First one is what it is, what this novel coronavirus is and why it is novel or new. What is a coronavirus? I want to talk about transmission, both of the virus and transmission in general. What I want to talk about in all of this is both the virus and transmission, and in all its contexts. So I want to address it as a virus, as a pandemic, as something that's happening to China and to the world. And I also want to address it as something that is information that is moving around the world in various different ways, and how the ways that it's moving, the way people are trying to contain it, all bring kind of meaning to this pandemic. So to start off, I am going to show a picture of a coronavirus. Now, as you can see, when I show you the image, a coronavirus looks like a corona, looks like, that flash around the sun. Now, any virologist, anybody who is involved in microbiology in any way, please feel free to correct me on this. If I seem a little tired and low energy, it is because I am not a doctor, and I have really been trying to read some sense into what exactly is a coronavirus and why is the fact that it is a coronavirus significant. So these are not a rare virus. What it is a very easily transmitted virus, but for the most part, if it is a coronavirus, comes from the human biosystem, it pretty much is just a bad cold. We know that we're aware of the coronavirus because in common household products, we're told this will kill a coronavirus. And what that's referring to is this simple coronavirus that we all know about and is like a common cold that everybody can get. So that's the basic thing that we're dealing with, a coronavirus, a very contagious cold. On the other hand, we have two other coronaviruses that you probably have heard of. One is Ebola and the other one is SARS. I'm going to get on to bats in a second, but both of these came from bats. So, you know, Netflix had that kind of okay documentary, Don't Fuck with Cats, hilarious. So when it comes to viruses, don't fuck with bats. Bats seem to have an internal ecosystem. I know that's the wrong word, but again, I'm not a doctor, but they are able to act as incubators for things that, you know, don't kill them. They may make them sick, but if it hits the human population, we are FUCKD because they just wipe people out. Editing me jumping in to say that since the time of recording, the most likely suspect animal-wise for this flu has now become the pangolin, which is apparently sold at the markets and is used in medicine. Now, whether or not it came from the markets is still a big question, but it is off the back of Now, when it comes to the coronavirus, there are a couple of things that are different. One of my first contact with why this was different is in a tweet. I'm going to put the tweet here. The question was being asked, what does this really mean? So I had a chance then to dig into it. And what I realized digging into it was that what it meant was that this was one of the most contagious diseases on record by far. So contagious, in fact, that the man who was writing the tweets was suggesting that nothing like this had been seen outside of artificial or chemical warfare. So that's where some of the red flags first started. It took a while to get a hang of what was being said, and what I gathered from it was, okay, well, they're telling us this again is bats. They are telling us again that this is a coronavirus, but if it is a coronavirus, this thing moves faster than anything we've seen before, except in bioweapons. And if you came here because of the tweet, this is probably where your ears are perking up. If you didn't see the tweet, I'm just going to put the two screenshots that I tweeted here. There was an American scientist who was working at a university. It was shown that 2 of his students were Chinese spies and that they were caught transferring biomatter back to the Wuhan province, which is where this professor of microbiology had established a clinic. But as we can see, this is a tricky virus. And this is where we get to the question of where did this virus really come from? This is my point of departure from a question of provenance. I think the question of where this came from is pretty much paled in significance at this point by the sheer horror of what's going on in China. So I'm going to redirect my focus now. I'm going to try and talk about this as viral. Now, you may notice that I'm going to skim pretty quickly over the fact that 8 Chinese citizens were arrested for trying to warn people about this virus. I am going to include this article. It's from the Daily Mail, and I've picked this one specifically because, frankly, it's a little bit racist. There's a lot of focus on the Chinese diet and the Chinese government. I don't want to get into the cultural values of this, but this is not about people eating bats. It has an enormously high rate of transmission. It then has a reasonably prolonged dormancy period. And during this dormancy period, people have an opportunity to move around and spread the virus. Once the first wave comes through, people panic, they move outside, and then they create new environments of the virus. That is the way bioweapons are designed to work, and that's the way this is working. I'm in Australia, so part of Oceania, and with an enormous Chinese community. I want to discuss that in a couple of ways too, but obviously at this point it has been declared a pandemic. I'm going to put up the stats here. What I'm giving here are the numbers for the 10th of February, which is the most recent available to me on film in terms of cases, and you can see right at the top that's China claiming that this is the amount of cases that they have and this is the amount of deaths. Before I move on to the next section in response to that, I am going to show a clip from Twitter. I will try and give it a credit. All I can credit is the person that tweeted it that I found it from, but it is an interesting clip, so I'm going to show it here. So there are plenty more examples of this, but I just want to show that while the Chinese government was still talking about the care it was showing for the people of the province, on social media what we were seeing was a lot of people in Wuhan saying that no care was being shown at all and that there was a real crisis. Okay, so now we get to the first part of the in these things. This is some footage that went viral both in China and in Korea and Japan. It's a man from the Wuhan province in another area of China being chased down and beaten so that they can quarantine him. It was a really violent scene, and it turned out that one of the people in the crowd was actually calling out to say that this was a member of his family and they had been there all along. So this is some of the early footage and propaganda that we're getting from China. Basically, yes, we are aware that there is a crisis and we are responding with full force. The thing that was going unmentioned is that the government did know about this, and it knew about it during the Chinese New Year, which is a really significant time for China. China has quite a mobile workforce. During the new year, a lot of people that move to work in other parts of China return to their homes, and then after the holidays, they return back to wherever they're working or internationally to where they're studying, etc. So, despite this show of preparedness and force, in fact, delays by the Chinese government were not only incredibly dangerous and incredibly destructive to Wuhan, but also very strangely timed. I'm not going to harp on whether this was a released virus, but the timing of it couldn't have been worse. So not long after, in fact, maybe 48 hours after that, this is the next thing that's being put forward by the Chinese government. If you're in the hospitals, if you're in the front force, don't expect to come home. It's a much sadder message. It came very quickly, but this is what Wuhan is dealing with now. Nothing about being rescued. This kind of bureaucracy is what we're seeing over and over again from China. People are saying that the numbers are inaccurate because you have to receive a certain test to be marked as having the virus. You need to be in a hospital to be diagnosed, so they're just stopping hospitals. And it's not just the Chinese government treating patients poorly. Many countries have pulled out their own citizens from Wuhan, and here we see the Americans bringing them home. So, do we have something completely out of control? The Chinese government has apologized to the doctor that tried to warn them, and the tactics that are being taken worldwide. This is Shanghai in China, spraying the streets with disinfectant to try and rid any areas outside of the Wuhan province of the virus. This is very likely to be ineffective. So the question then became, I had the conversation that I've been talking about with the coronavirus, saying this could just be a normal coronavirus. Did she say anything about it being from China? And it turned out she had said, this is not the one from China. And we were laughing. What kind of doctor rings you up at this time in this climate and says, oh, just to let you know, you've got coronavirus, drink liquids, take some fever stuff and you'll be fine. This is a Chinese woman in Wuhan who is suspected of having the virus, and as you can see, the authorities are gathering to bring her into one of these containment areas, and she is not wanting to go. One of the strange things is the way they all move back when she smashes her head and gets blood on the ground. It has been declared a global health emergency. What do you mind? What? I'm so sorry. So if we've got a lack of beds in the Wuhan province, and I mean, these numbers, it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to see that these numbers are not really adding up. All right, now I've made an executive decision not to put anything too upsetting in this video, but there is amazingly upsetting footage out there. The most upsetting footage for me personally, I've got a lot of cats here, which explains why the most upsetting footage for me, but animals are being slaughtered en masse. There's a lot of footage of live pigs being pushed into troughs, an enormous amount of animals dying because the region has been closed off. There is footage of thousands and thousands of geese who have starved to death. So this is a terrible thing for many reasons. But one of the reasons is that, aside from anything else, the Wuhan province is announcing that it has a shortage of beds, but it is very likely to soon be having a shortage of food. But as we can see, this is a tricky virus, and this is where we get to the question of, where did this virus really come from? The first thing put forward by the Chinese government was that this had come from bats. They were caught smuggling vials of biomaterial out of America to China, and where they were going was the Wuhan province, because the place that the clinic had been established was the Wuhan province, actually geographically quite close to the market. Again, I am not going to draw any conclusions. I'm hoping as this continues, I can make some sort of a series about it. I'm not able to get too in deep in what I want to keep as a really neat little video, but I'll try and bring up the main points, and then if people enjoy it, if it gets a good response, I will dig deeper, I will research this, and I will continue to bring you news about the virus. As we can see from this, in the Wuhan province, the government has also begun securing people inside their apartments so that people are now basically locked inside. Pertain to meat and animals, but the government is slaughtering mass amounts of animals that have been animals that were intended for slaughter and now have been taken away because of the potential to carry virus, or are simply not sustainable. Now, this does come back to the points I mentioned a little bit about the transmission of Ebola, SARS, this, and why it's different. Now that we're getting into the nitty-gritty, I am going to play you a little clip, which was one of the first clips that I saw. These are the images of the containment camps that have begun popping up, not just in Wuhan, but across China, for anyone that seems to be carrying the virus. I'm pretty much spending the day verifying as much as I can. Anything that isn't verified is accurate. There may be things that I include that I know are not accurate, just to again discuss why are we being given the information the way that we're being given it, what is being held back. I'm sure most people or maybe are not aware that the World Health Organization has suggested that every year more people die from a common flu. The overall political approach to this seems to be, we don't want people to panic, but become very clear from some of the footage that we're looking at and some of the information that I'll show that people are panicking, particularly in China and then in the surrounding area. The fact that, you know, they're designing these weapons in Wuhan and a building very close to the markets definitely raises some questions. But I'm not going to enter too much into speculation. I think there is plenty of room for speculation, and I really invite it in the comments. I'd love to hear what everybody thinks. So these are the current numbers, and I'm going to leave you with probably the saddest thing that I have seen in all of this. It is the city of Wuhan. I showed you the locks on the doors, and now the people of Wuhan who are locked inside are screaming from the buildings, and what they are screaming is, please help us, Wuhan, help us, which is just tragic.